Very good to see you again. You're watching This Morning on this Thursday morning on Valentine's Day. It is. It
is Valentine's Day, a happy day, but sadly we've got sad things to talk about, because on the 10th of November last year, Ben Brooks-Dutton, his wife Desireen and their 2-year-old son Jackson were walking home when a speeding car mounted the pavement. Now, the car narrowly missed Ben and Jackson and they were very lucky to survive, but tragically Desireen was hit and killed by the impact of that car.
Well, as you can imagine, today is a significant day for Ben. First Valentine's Day without his wife, and not only does he have to cope with that, but he also wants to ensure that her memory is kept alive for their son. With Ben, Jeff Brazier. Jeff is bringing up his sons Bobby and Freddie after their mother Jade Goody died, and that's nearly 4 years ago now. And Jeff is here also because he works with a charity who help children come to terms with death. Ben, first of all, this is so raw for you. Our commiserations to you. Today is another one of those days that is an anniversary, the way Christmas is, the way birthdays are, New Year's Eve, whatever. There's always another one.
It's actually a happy anniversary for me as well.
Why is that?
Because 3 years ago today we found out that Jackson was going to be born. We did a pregnancy test that turned blue. So I've tried to use today to mark that occasion rather than a day of sadness, because there's so many of those. So I went out shopping yesterday and bought him a load of new trains for his train set. So he's actually having a quite positive day today out of it. Yeah.
Sudden death is always so difficult to come to terms with. How are you trying to do that?
I'm trying to be very open and honest with myself and with others. I think when it first happened, there's a tendency for people to tell you to be strong and to have a stiff upper lip. It's the British way. And I used it as a badge of honour for the first 3 weeks. It was 3 weeks before the funeral. And so I thought, you know, I'm going to be strong, I'm going to be a man. And then after the funeral, I thought, this is ridiculous. My wife's just died. Why should I not be in pieces? And I actually started to challenge that idea of being strong and having a stiff upper lip, and to allow myself to be weak on certain days and to see strength in weakness, really, in what's perceived to be weakness anyway, and just let myself feel the way I feel.
Is that something you can identify with, Jeff?
Absolutely. For me, the biggest therapy over the last 4 years has actually been writing the various columns and blogs in publications, whether it's just for my own purposes, because you can guarantee that by the end of me actually writing about what the problem is, I'm already planning the solution to the problem, so I've solved it within that. And with your blogging, I expect you probably find the same.
I do. I mean, the blog, I set up a blog 5.5 weeks ago because when it first happened, I was looking to find guys just like me that had similar stories, and I found it actually quite difficult to find anyone like that. So I started this blog so that people could start to find that empathy online, could share stories. But it also turned into something quite cathartic for me. The last post I wrote a couple of days ago actually cheered me up. It made me laugh. I wrote it from my son's point of view.
But it's a brutal story. It is a brutal story, Ben. And there was an afternoon of happiness, which in no time at all just turned completely round. Would you relive it for us? Would you tell us?
Yeah, we'd been with friends all day in West Hampstead. We'd gone out and done all of the things that we like to do. My wife was into arts and crafts and things. We went to a pottery cafe where you paint your own things, and then you know, they go in the urn to be fired. And then we went and made dinner with our friends. My wife was dancing with my son, you know, with the radio on and stuff. We just had a brilliant day. We talked about what a great day it was. And then we left for the train station. We took a couple of steps down the street and a car mounted the pavement and struck her, narrowly missing us. And then it just descended into complete chaos from that point, and she was pronounced dead at the scene about an hour later.
We're so sorry. It's so tragic. With all this grief that you have, Ben, and this devastation of losing your wife, and then you have this thing which you know about, Jeff, this 2-year-old boy that you have to explain what's happened to Mummy.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Well, I took my time, actually, because for the first 4 weeks there was people filling the house. There was lots of big people there calling her Desireen, and he copied. He stopped calling her Mummy and he started calling her Desireen, which crushed me. But then I came to terms with the fact that he couldn't have forgotten her so quickly, because he could still remember the names of characters off TV that he'd not watched for 2 months. So it just didn't make sense. He was just copying the adults. When it felt like the right time, when I decided how I was going to tell him, when I decided that I was going to tell him the truth, I waited for the right moment. I waited for him not to be tearful, for him to be happy, for it to be bedtime where we could talk about it properly.
When you say the truth, do you mean you know, I've got a friend and they said, oh, you know, Daddy's gone to heaven, and then they realised afterwards that she thought heaven was just like Manchester or London, or, and they realised that they hadn't made it clear that Daddy wasn't coming back.
Well, Jeff and I just talked about this because, you know, his boys were older than mine. Mine was 2 and has no geographical references whatsoever, so he didn't know the difference between the park and paradise. So if I said she'd gone to heaven, he'd think, well, let's go then, I can go there. If I said she'd gone to a better place, he'd think, well, where's better than with me? So I told him that she'd gone, that she couldn't ever come back, and that she'd never have left out of choice because she loved him more than anything or anyone in the world. And as he grows older and gets some geographical references, I'll start to explain then where she is.
Jeff, what have you learnt along the way? And also, you work with this charity, which we've talked about before on the programme, Grief Encounter.
Well, I mean, I almost feel quite apologetic when I say this, but I at least had the benefit of 6 months of knowing what was about to happen. Jade was terminal; she was going to lose her life, so I was able to prepare the boys. But actually, in talking to Ben, it helped me realise that that's completely irrelevant. It's ridiculous. Whether it's an instant thing, it's still something that the kids have got to get their head around. But I remember delivering the news to them. Again, I took my time, like you said, you did. I waited until the evening because it just seemed like the best moment, because they were calm. They were ready for bed, and I'd given them the story that it was so well structured because I wanted to make sure that they understood that was the most important thing to me. So when I said, look, it's happened, boys, Mummy is now on her way to heaven, you can see that there was a really bright star in the sky. There's Mummy. It made sense to them, and that I think in that stage is a really important thing. But
did you have to make sure, like Ben said, that you made it clear and she's not coming back?
Yeah, as much as it's the hardest thing to do, because it's information that hurts your children's feelings.
And you, when you're giving that.
Yeah, but again, where our situations are different is that you was the victim of a tragic incident, whereas for me, I lost an ex-partner, but I lose through the children because I see their grief, I see how it affects their life. They've got to go without a mum for the rest of their life. It's horrendous.
What about keeping the memory alive? You talked so fondly there of your wife, and you know, she was full of life and dancing with your son. You know, how do you move from this sadness to keeping that alive for Jackson and talking about his mum? And
well, we've not taken a single picture down. I show him pictures of her every day. We sing songs that she liked. We kiss her goodnight on the picture that I've got on my phone. And I've got lots of ideas for how to keep her memory alive in the future. I've been writing as well. I've written, I wrote an open Valentine's letter from me in a newspaper this weekend, and I wrote one on behalf of Jackson to his mum in the words I think he'd use if he were able to talk or write.
How important is it, Jeff, to keep the memory alive? I mean, you must have to do that with Bobby and Freddie and talk about Jade.
Yeah, it's a very positive phrase, keeping memories alive. There's nothing to do with bereavement there or death. And I think that it's great to encourage children that's exactly what you need to do. And everyone's got different ways of doing it. On the anniversary of Jade's death every year, we release balloons. They write messages on. It started growing and growing. Well, all of a sudden, we've got the whole of Bobby's football team. We've got kids from school. And people are actually bringing balloons with their own messages on for their own loved ones. So what we're doing this year with the help of the charity is to release some balloons again around well, it's going to be the 24th of March. And, you know, you're interested in getting involved as well, aren't you?
But Ben is just starting on this journey. You know, you're ahead. What about difficult times, anger? You know,
there's lots of that to come.
And also, who's there for Ben? I can totally understand you being there for Jackson, but there must be times where, and in many ways, I suppose he takes up your grief and your emotion, and he channels it. You know, you channel it towards him, and it helps you not think about lots of things. But what about you? Who's there to look after you?
I've got a great network of family and friends, first off, but then, I mean, Jeff and I were just talking about this, the word expert, it's a funny word to use when it comes to grief, because, you know, you have to have kind of gone through it to become an expert, and then you're not even one, because everything we've talked about, we differ so much in our approach.
It's trial and error.
It's trial and error, yeah. But there's lots of organisations out there, if you go looking for it. It's actually, the drum I'm kind of banging is trying to encourage men to be open enough to ask for that help in the first place, because if you look at the stats...
Do you agree with that, Jeff? Did you try to be too strong sometimes?
At times, yeah. What I think is very intelligent about the way that Ben is dealing with this is that he's, through his blogs, creating his own support network, which I'd advise to anyone in that situation, because for me, Twitter is a lot of things, but you know, if I've ever got a problem, and if I ever don't quite have the answer to it, I know I can put it out there, and so many kind people that have got the experience in these situations are able to just offer some words of advice, and it can make the difference.
It will change. it probably never stops, because as they get older, they'll ask different questions,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
a 2-year-old and 10-year-olds, and the anger sometimes.
It changes every day.
It changes every day.
I'm so fortunate as well in that when I put a post on the blog, I'm getting some of the experts from all over the world come back to me and suggest ways that I can make it better and easier for myself and for Jackson. It's incredible.
We'll put details of your blog online, because if there's anybody watching that's affected by anything that we've discussed here with Ben and Jeff, particularly men, as you said, to be able to ask for help. Helplines, all the details, and of Ben's blog, all on our website. That's itv.com/This Morning. Thank you so much. And
Thank you both.
love to you and Jackson.
Thank you.
And condolences always to both of you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. We'll take a break. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.